All right, everyone. Welcome to today's Black Excellence in Legacy Lunch Series session. My name is Chris Campbell. I am one of the assistant directors in the Office of Multicultural Education. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm also a member of the class of 2015. Um, One of the things that I like to acknowledge what is going on in our country, in our world today. And so before we dive into our session today, and before I have our lovely guests introduce themselves, I wanted to take a moment of silence for the victims who were killed in Atlanta last week. Also for the folks who were killed in Boulder, Colorado yesterday. So just a moment of silence for the victims and their families. My heart goes out to the victims and their families. And I know it's been a hard week for a lot of folks, a hard year. It's just, there's just so much going on while we're still in the midst of a global pandemic. I encourage folks, practice self-care in whatever way that looks like for you. Don't forget to pause when you can, and practice some self-love. I think with everything that's going on, I hope that we are able to do that for ourselves as a gift. With that being said, as we engage today in a conversation, I'd like to share that this is a formally informal conversation. So feel free to utilize the chat box as we go. If you have any comments, any questions that you have for our lovely guest today, without further ado, I will turn it over to Tita to go ahead and introduce herself.
Thank you, Chris. I'm really excited to be here. So my name is Tita Feraud-King. I use she, her pronouns. I am a class of 2015 as well. I was a sociology major and a peace and conflict concentration. Should I go further and talk about my involvement and go straight in?
Absolutely.
Okay. During my time at Holy Cross, I was really involved in CASA. Chris and I were actually co-chairs together. I started CASA from my first year to the time I graduated. I also was involved in women in business. I was part of the sociology student advisory committee, and I also co-chaired that committee. I participated in the peer mentor program and became a peer mentor. I did Odyssey, where I was a participant, then became an Odyssey leader. I studied abroad in Australia, and I was a very active member in Asia, DESI, Pride, BSU, and the Women Forum. Currently, right now, I am a PhD student, PhD candidate at UMass Amherst. I am also a research assistant and teaching assistant and a assistant resident director, all at UMass. I also have my master's from University of Pennsylvania and a social justice education certificate from UMass.
I don't know if I could follow up from that. That's pretty impressive. My name is Maury J. I think I get this right. I use he, his pronouns. Did I get that right? I graduated from the Holy Cross in 1991. So that makes me officially an old guy, which I have no problem with. While I was at Holy Cross, I was a member of the BSU, but I was a two-sport athlete when I was there. I played football on the football team from 1987 to 1991. And I was a walk-on track athlete when I was there. I was three-time New England champion in the 55-meter dash from Holy Cross all those years, and was all New England and all East those years. So it was fun, but it was trying. I've been working at the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the last 18 years and been a supervisor for 10 of those years, working in the cyber realm with intelligence, and from there, and been active in trying to re-engage myself in Holy Cross activities ever since. It goes back to those questions that I know we're going to get a little bit later. So with that, I'll open up the floor to the moderator.
Wow, I am just impressed. I knew a lot about Tita and her engagement as a student, and have been following her journey post Holy Cross. But you're never doing too much. You're just always being great because you're good at everything that you do, and nothing surprises me. I think the world that we live in needs people like you. So keep up the good work out there in Amherst, Massachusetts. And to Maury, wow, I feel like every time we bring in an alum in this space, I am so inspired by the brilliance, by the excellence, that comes with being a Holy Cross alumni. And what you just shared with us, even if the small piece was remarkable. My first question for both of you, and I've been asking participants, what comes to mind when you think of Black joy? And you know what? What comes to mind when you think of Black excellence?
Tita, you want to take that one first, or should I?
It's up to you.
I'll take it first. I had to actually think about this question and kind of break it down into something simple, because we don't have all the time in the world, and I can be quite talkative. So I slow it down a little bit. First thing I said, it was a chorus. When I think of Black joy, I think of a chorus. It's the fullest expression on a daily basis of what God put you on this earth to do, and to do it in unison with the purpose of other people. You have to be able, my joy comes in line with being in line with what God put me here to do, and making him proud of what I do by helping other people. It's that inner joy. It's not, and I think at the core of it, it's not for me. It's whatever I do, that joy comes from helping other people reach their joy too. Excellence is a continuum for me, and I think that's a different question as we move on down. Tita?
That was beautiful. When I think of Black joy, I think of not having restrictions due to your skin color or other identities. I think about Blackness is so beautiful and powerful, and that society is constantly trying to retain it and trying to minimize it and trying to silence it or trying to take advantage and exploit it. So when I think of Black joy, I think about you doing what makes you feel human, alive, feel like you're being seen, fulfilled in life, and feel connected to your community. Because part of Blackness is that it's not isolated identity, but it's a communal, societal, social identity.
Wow, part of Blackness is not isolated identity. Well, powerful responses, as Ariana shared in the chat. Well, on to Black excellence. What does Black excellence mean to both of you? And how would you define Black excellence at Holy Cross?
I really love Ariana's share because it made me really start thinking about Holy Cross. I know, that should be mass produced at Holy Cross, Black excellence at Holy Cross. I have actually one for UPenn. Sorry to go on a little tangent, but I know this is being recorded, but I'm going to be frank and real with you while being inappropriate. Speaking from experience, from observation and what I've seen and heard, I'm gonna argue that part Black excellence especially at Holy Cross, where you are a severe minority in terms of numbers and in terms of culture, is being seen and heard, not being silenced or making yourself feel smaller to make white people feel comfortable, while also making sure you get decent grades and graduate on time, because Holy Cross is no joke. Holy Cross academically really do put you in the ringer. And so it's very important. Part of Black excellence is passing that line and actually graduating. But while you're doing that, you shouldn't be miserable and shouldn't be hiding and not be able to enjoy the full college experience because you are Black.
In my time up at Holy Cross, be quite honest with you, my struggle, I guess my cross to bear was not with the white folks up there. It was with the people of color. Let me make that very clear. It wasn't with those folks. It was with understanding being at Holy Cross and trying to mature and learn as I went. For me, the Black excellence and excellence in general is three things. Fulfilling your God-given potential. Whatever you've decided to do for yourself, you do it with all your might. It doesn't matter to me whether you're a music major or a football athlete, or you read literature, or you're an arts major. Do it with all your heart, do it with all your mind and all your soul. To me, you cannot achieve excellence unless you know what that purpose is. Excellence is different for every single person. Doesn't matter if you're Black or white, but even in the Black community, we have a higher standard. We tend to hold ourselves accountable in that area a little bit more. Number two, most importantly, you have to respect the excellence of others. You cannot be excellent yourself if game is hating on other people's game. You can't do that. If you don't respect the others, you may not understand exactly how you can achieve things for yourself. If you're just closed off, if you think that you all that in a bag of chips because of where you came from, your socioeconomic circumstances, or whatever it is you brought to college, you won't be excellent because you can't respect the excellence of others. And then number three, and most importantly, what I didn't get as much, not because of anybody's fault other than mine, is that you have to help others achieve their excellence. It's a continuum. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be maintained. There's only one way you do that, is that you go, if you have excellence yourself, helping those others to get excellent themselves. If you think it's about you, that's all you'll have at the end, just you. You have to be able to see that in other people and help them get there. It's a community thing. I think Tita said it earlier. It has to be a community thing. So you have to see those things. You have to know what you're here for. You've got to be able to respect that excellence in other people and help others get there, in my opinion. That's what Black, in a nutshell, that's all of Black excellence at Holy Cross, if you choose to take on that mission.
Well said. It's people building up each other, right? And that community effort, like as you said, fulfilling your God-given potential, respecting the excellence of others, and helping others to achieve their excellence. Beautiful. With excellency in mind, are there any stories you would like to share about your time on or off the Hill? And do you have any memorable experiences during your time at Holy Cross?
There's so many.
That one hit my brain.
I have a love-hate relationship with Holy Cross. It's interesting because I greatly appreciate my time and experience with Holy Cross, and I don't regret going to Holy Cross because it made me who I am. Also, the nice touch, I did meet my husband at Holy Cross, so that like the father role. But also, Holy Cross, like many historically white institutions, have a lot of learning and growing. And something that resonate, and when I think of like the legacy and Black excellence, and something I'm so proud of is the protests that we had at Holy Cross. We had several different demonstrations at Holy Cross my senior year, so fall of 2014, where we, one in particular, we, as a group of Holy Cross students, walked all the way from Holy Cross all the way to City Hall in the name of Black Lives Matter. And obviously these issues, police brutality, racism on and off campus is still happening. It was happening back then, happening now, happening before I was even born. It's always been a societal issue. So that's one thing that comes to mind. And I felt like that event was a catalyst for a lot of changes and a lot of discussion on racism on campus, because Holy Cross at that time was primed themselves for having a quote unquote diverse campus, but it really wasn't diverse. And diversity doesn't mean inclusion. It doesn't mean that students of color feel like they're being seen and heard and et cetera. Another thing I think of on a positive note related to Black excellence and is in community is not only just about the Black community. The thing I did appreciate about my time at Holy Cross, I will say, I purposely use the word students of color because I'm not only referring to Black students, I'm also referring to Asian students and Latinx students who I don't identify as Black, and other racially minoritized students, how we congregate and connected so well. And I do contribute that to the Odyssey program. I know the Odyssey program now is a little different, but back then it was a 1 week long program. So a week long program right before classes start. And then and this is right after a lot of the people who do Odyssey, they did a passport program, which was 4 weeks long for them. So us as a collective, we really connected with each other. And those people I met during Odyssey became my friends majority of college. And in addition, they were part of my wedding. Chris was there and so many other people, like majority of my wedding attendees were from Holy Cross. And it's because of connections I made at Odyssey. And I think that's a part of Black excellence. I think because the idea that you are able to find a community and feel like you're being loved for who you are and not restricted, that's part of it. And I appreciate that. And the one last story or thing I come to mind, similar, I can be a talker. One thing I am very proud of was the MSO quad takeover. I'm not sure if that's still a thing anymore, but pre-COVID as well. CASA, the Caribbean African Student Assemblage, we used to have something called the CASA Quad Takeover, where we used to host an event in the quad. And Chris and I think it was when we were co-chairs, when we decided, let's make it, expand it more. Instead of just focusing on CASA, let's also work with other MSOs and let's make it just a whole quad takeover where we take over the quad and have kind of like a fair type of thing that invites everyone. And let's do it during homecoming weekend so we can also engage with other alums of color so they can also see what we're up to and attract other students who know what is going on and for us to be visible on campus. So that's the last thing I'm gonna say.
That was excellent. You make it hard to follow you after this. I might as well just drop the mic and leave. It's really good. For me, I had to really look deep inside of me. I'm much like Tita. I can't say I even had a love-hate. For many years, it was just indifference for me when it came to the school. And it leads into what I think is really important when you're on campus there. If I could go back, and talk to that young man back in 1987, 88, 89, and 91. A couple of things I tell him. I tell him that this is a journey of identifying and exploring who you are. Holy Cross can be a lot of things. You could throw a lot of things at a student when you first come on the campus and you have no clue because you come from, name the place in the country, and you come together with a group of people you've never lived with, never ate with, and then you have Hogan and Kimball. And I did say eat. So, and you're not used to it. I would, if I could go back and talk to that young man, I would tell him to get to know who he is. I heard, and I've heard more when I came to Holy Cross about being your authentic self and your authentic Blackness. My most memorable times on the campus were around sports, but that was the problem. I didn't get a chance to get to know me. I didn't get a chance to understand what it meant to be grown and actually have to go to class, go to work, have the responsibilities. Second thing I tell myself, if I were to go back while I was on campus, to tell them the simple words, harsh reality for me, I tell myself to grow up. Simply because if you don't deal with those things and deal with those issues, you can have all the networks in the world. You can go to get every degree that you want to. You can go anywhere in the world. I've had the opportunities since I've left the campus to walk the Great Wall of China, dip my feet in the Sea of Galilee, eat Peking duck in Beijing. I was a witness to the bombing of the embassies in Kenya and Nairobi in 1998 and was there. I've had an opportunity to see a few things. If I could go back and tell that man to grow up, simply because where you're sitting right now, Ms. Moore, you don't know what you're going to see when you're done with Holy Cross. You can't see yourself right now. I would tell that young man, you're going to go on a journey, and you can get a lot of things in your head about who you think you are until you really allow yourself to give yourself a break. You have no idea. I mean, look at Miss Tita here. She's a PhD student going after it. I don't know what she saw when she was at Holy Cross. I can tell you, I didn't graduate at the top of my class when I graduated. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a real story. I was sweeping floors and cleaning toilets at a Burger King the year after I graduated in Atlanta, Georgia, North Druid Hills Road in Decatur. I had no idea that after all the stuff that happened to me at that school, that I'd be sitting here today trying to help the school, which is that legacy part I was telling you about, Chris. Helping other students and maturing in that way. If I could go back and see that, those are some of the highlights in my journey, to include walking the streets of New York from a little country boy in East Texas and being in New York City and walking around the streets and not being afraid, working there for the last 2.5 years before I came back home. If I could go back and do those things and tell that young man that, those are the memorable things that I remember, that I wasn't as mature as I needed to be. And I didn't get out of my own way. And I wish we had a better network, a better way of learning back then to facilitate those things and help people grow through that. So I'm like my colleague here. I have so many stories outside of the Hill. It's amazing. Up to which my career at the Bureau, it's been an amazing ride. I cannot believe it's been 18 years this coming June. So.
Wow. I feel like every time we hold these sessions, I leave feeling motivated. I leave feeling inspired. And there's so many stories and so many untold stories, you know, from Holy Cross alums, you know, from their experiences on campus to where they are now, that are powerful. And I feel like there's so many students who need to hear these stories. And I'm meeting with these students on a daily basis. And there are days when I just wish I could like literally put the student in front of the alums who are joining us to be vulnerable in this space, so that they can hear, to let them know that they can achieve, you know, and sometimes we hit rock bottom, but with resiliency and with community and with excellence, we can persevere, you know. I know, Tita, I see you all here. You are a scholar, you are writing, you are published. And every time I see a journal, because I work in higher ed, and every time I see a workshop, a journal article coming out and your name is there, and not just because your name is there, you are talking about things that haven't been talked about. And I know your Holy Cross experience helped you to be prepared for that. I want to ask two questions, and I hope that we can answer them. So the first question is I have for Tita. Looking back at your Holy Cross experience, what would you tell yourself? And I'm sorry, he started, he got there.
Already answered that.
He got there. And then the follow-up question after that is, how did your Holy Cross experience prepare you for where you are today? So Tita, I'll turn it over to you first.
That's a good question. Because I always think back about my Holy Cross experience, and I always tell myself, oh man, I wish I could just chill out. Not in terms of what I was doing and being active, in terms of my personality. I felt like I took things too personal, and maybe it was just a like young teenage hormonal person in me,
Yep.
trying to navigate life and figure out who I am as a person, and like realizing now as an adult. I mean, we obviously are an adult. If you're 18 plus, you are an adult, and I don't want to diminish that at all. But where I am at life, and after all these different experiences I've had post Holy Cross, I wish I realized that I wish I had a more introspective. I could have been more empathetic of others and recognize that everyone's struggling, and nobody at Holy Cross know what they're doing, and that they are trying to figure out who they are, even if they appear as confident as possible, that they're still trying to figure out something, and to not take things so personal, and that sometimes their shade is more of a projection of themselves and not of you, and that shouldn't hinder you or stop you from doing certain things, and also it shouldn't stop you from trying to form a relationship. You can be mindful of that, and not be so open with your own personal stuff in life, but also not see them as like the enemy or be against them. You don't, it's unnecessary drama. So that's something I wish I could tell myself. It's like, chill out. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. In terms, you agree with that?
That's what Chris does? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And in terms of Holy Cross, before going to Holy Cross, I went to inner city high school. And when I entered Holy Cross, granted I took a bunch of AP classes before going to Holy Cross, but I felt underprepared. I admit my writing was atrocious, and English is my second language. I did not feel confident as a writer. And now I'm pursuing a PhD. So I will contribute that greatly to Holy Cross, where Holy Cross really prepared me academically. It definitely taught me about critical thinking and not to regurgitate information and to question, which is a huge part of pursuing a PhD, is to not take things at surface value and really try to connect them to theories and try to ask why is this like this? Furthermore, Holy Cross Holy Cross made me pursue the field I am pursuing currently right now, which is higher education. I didn't even know the term higher education before going to college. Going back to, I'm also a first generation college student, first to graduate from college from my family. And as I remember my sophomore year, I was having like a early life crisis where I didn't know what I wanted to do, because originally when I started Holy Cross, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I realized, it's not for me. Like, I'm not interested in that. And as I was exploring what I wanted to do and what I was happy doing, which I realized participating in all these activities, student affairs activities, the MSLs, CASA, Women in Business, etc. I was like, oh, I really like this. And the people I looked up to were all in student affairs, like Dean Jacqueline Peterson, who's no longer at Holy Cross, and Rob Jones, who's no longer at Holy Cross. They were doing the jobs that I really wanted to do. I was like, I like what you're doing. And then I realized they were getting paid to do what they were doing. So I think Holy Cross for making me realize helping me find my passion. And the final thing, when I think about what Holy Cross gave me and prepare me for life, is the ability to discern and to reflect. That may sound so small and minuscule, but that's huge in life, especially when it comes to making life changing decisions. You have to be able to reflect on your decisions and reflect on your options, and to be able to be okay with your decisions and be able to discern. Holy Cross emphasized on reflecting. And with the silent retreats, or all these different types of retreats and classes and certain activities, etc. And I'm really appreciative of that. And that's very unique. I've been part of so many different institutions. I've been part of an Ivy League. I've worked at a very technical institution. I worked at Drexel University, Philly U, being part of UMass. So I worked at a public institution. So I've been part of so many different types of institution types. And I will say none of them emphasize on reflecting on your actions and what you want to do and trying to have discernment.
Let me make sure I get the parameters of the question right, Chris. We're basically talking about how our time on the Hill has helped us? You're on mute. I couldn't hear you. You're on mute. There you go.
You would think that being on Zoom for a year, I got it right. Yes, but how did your time on the Hill prepare you for where you are today in life?
As I told you before, my time up on the Hill was not the greatest in the world. If I were to look back at the whole of my experience at Holy Cross to what I'm doing today and how it prepared me, it was more indirect than direct. But it was a very powerful indirect. There are certain things that the Cross has in terms of its expectations of all of its graduates. And then there's that reflective thing that when you represent the people of color on the Cross, it's a different tone. It's a different timbre. There's a different expectation of you. If there's anything that I didn't take advantage of when I was in school that I absolutely recognize now, is the fact that the hardships, nothing is going to be given to you. You have to work for this, for these big things that you say that you want. It was forged, it was ingrained painfully at times when I was up on that hill. If nothing from, have you ever walked from Kimball all the way over to where Milady was? And when I was in school, that was the furthest part of campus at that time. That's how old I am. There was nothing on the other side of there. If you have not figured out that you have to walk that far in the snow just to get your food and go get it happily because you're hungry, you may overlook something like that until you have to walk the streets of New York and figure out where you're going to eat in the middle of a snowstorm and try to figure out how you're going to get home because you have a job there. You overestimate well, I'll go to class or I might not go to class today. When you're sitting there and you're wondering, where does it get taught that you have to stay on your job until the work gets done? And it doesn't matter if it's right after that or when you write your dissertation, Miss Tita, and when that stuff comes together in that research, where do you think that comes from? I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that all that started at Holy Cross, and I didn't recognize it when I was there. I just thought it was, oh my God, just survive. Just get through, just get finished, get through your semester, and then come back and do it again. Deal with all this stuff that you're dealing with. I would go back and I would say, please, yes, and late nights, absolutely. I never knew. Now watch this. I'm going to date myself real bad. Back then, it was not coffee. It was called no-dose. We're talking straight caffeine pills. That's what we used to do. I didn't see it then, and I absolutely see it now. You have to be able to build that work ethic in. You've got to do things, to be honest with you, without complaining, crying, or thinking that somebody's going to rescue you. You have to do it yourself. If I had been a little bit more mature when I was on campus, I would have made more networks. I would have talked to more people. And I wish I had taken advantage of that when I was there. All we had to kind of hit on one of your other questions, Chris, real quick, that there weren't that many resources other than the career planning office when I was there. And I wish I had talked with more of my classmates. I wish we had talked more because I think everybody was too busy trying to get their hustle on and do whatever they needed to do. So they just kind of looked at other people and expected that other people were doing it too, and they didn't have time for that. You have to check and see. You have to make sure. There were some folks that were a part of the group of football players and athletes. Then there was the Greta McNeil, because she was alive at that point, group. And those people talked maybe one amongst each other, but not across. Because I didn't get a whole lot of help when I was done. So if I had had an opportunity to do that a little bit better, I would have, I think, been in a better footing when I got out. Luckily for me, I had a chance to finally get connected to a guy that everybody knows by the name of Mr. Harry Thomas, that kind of walked me through a few things and began my not only journey back to this phone call, but to some of my career moves in the government.
I appreciate you touching on resources and support. Because I feel like I believe that is very critical to a number of students' experiences, for the resources that were available at the college, but the people,
that's when I was there.
But the people who were there. Tita, I know you touched on, a number of folks, but is there anyone you want to highlight or just talk about who were supportive during your time at Holy Cross? I'm learning a lot about, a number of the folks who came before me in these conversations, but anyone you'd like to highlight, any resources, any support systems that were in place for you?
There's so many. To be able to get a degree at Holy Cross, at least for me, you can't do it on your own. I cannot just contribute like, oh, I'm just was an amazing student. It was a whole lot of effort and support from different places. And I realized very quickly you have to be humble and be able to ask for help. So the people I would like to shout out, one is Rob Jones. He's my life mentor. He used to work at OME, but he no longer works there. He providing me the skills to be able to facilitate different workshops, to public speak. He was always like tapping my shoulder for opportunities and telling me, you should do this, you should join this committee, bringing me to meetings, having me to speak to faculty, to staff, etc. So I really thank him for that, for giving me all those opportunities. Someone else is Dean Peterson. as I mentioned, she's no longer at Holy Cross. Amazing, phenomenal woman. I highly look up to her. She was the reason why OME became a thing. She created the Office of Multicultural Education when she was the Vice President of Student Affairs. And she is still a Black woman. And she created this sister to sister program where she connected staff of color, female staff of color with female students of color, and be able to connect with each other. And that gave me an opportunity to meet Melissa and other staff members who on a more intimate level, because especially being a first-gen student, it can be quite intimidating to try to form a relationship with staff and faculty, and to be able to have that opportunity, I'm really grateful. Offices I would shout out, OME, of course, that was practically my home. I would always swing by there. The career services, I actually was there quite a lot during my early life crisis, and they helped me try to navigate, and they were asking me questions like, what do you like to do? What do you do on campus, etc. And they also obviously helped me with my resume, and giving me tips on what can I do while I was at Holy Cross to make myself a more marketable candidate for after Holy Cross. Another program that I'm really thankful for is a pre-business program. I'm not sure how it functions today, because I'm assuming it's a little different from when I was there back then. But being part of the pre-business program taught me a lot in terms of networking, business skills, budgeting, all these life skills that you need, how to do your taxes. So Professor Shu was in charge of the pre-business program, and he's amazing. So I'm really thankful for being part of the pre-business program, even though I'm not pursuing a business career. There's so many I could go on, but I'll stop there.
Well, we appreciate that. And I know we're almost at time, and I know Tita has to run off to a class, but the last question to wrap up our time today, and Ariana dropped it in the chat. Any last minute pieces of advice for current students of color or students in general at Holy Cross that you would like to share?
I'll fill that one. It goes into the question, what are some of the hard questions you would ask a little bit? If I were to emphasize to any student of color at Holy Cross, is to remember that there is life after Holy Cross, and that where you go and what you do is entirely left up to you. And to a certain degree, and I'm not saying this to be disingenuous of anyone, pay more attention to who you need to be and who you are, versus just defining yourself by a person of color. The reason I say that is that you're a human being first. And when you get to my age, the color becomes less of an issue as much as your character does. And if you don't know who you are, you don't pursue those things when you're in school. Test it out. That's what college is for. It's like a buffet. Figure out what it is that you like to do. It doesn't matter what your friends want to do. It doesn't matter what your parents want to do. It doesn't matter. You can compare yourself to other people. You can take some of their examples of excellence and their traits, but use that as a platform to build your own. Friends don't just come and go, and you get those when you're in school, but at the end of the day, the person that you have to look yourself in the mirror as is you, whether you're with someone or not with someone. You can concentrate on being your skin color. You could just be your best you, whatever that is. One of my best people that I talk to these days is Miss Danita Beck. She was a freshman when I was at school there. And the biggest thing that she taught me when I was at school by just being herself is that being different was okay. And that it's okay that your gifts will make room for you. Sorry to sound preachy. You have to really, really, It's hard to do when you're in school because you got so many different things that you're trying to get done and ideas in your head. But being your authentic self before you're being Black, white, Latino, Caribbean, or anything is most important. Don't come off that hill not knowing who you are. And don't let anybody get in your way from learning that one lesson in life coming off that hill. Miss Tita?
Oh man, that was hard. Because wow, yes, I definitely agree. Being different is okay, is necessary. That sets you apart, and that's, yeah. I will say, last minute advice: make sure you get involved. I know it's hard because of academics, but get involved, because part of Holy Cross is your holistic self. You're not just about school, and you're also not just about friends and partying. You have to also experience other things and develop other skills. Make sure you connect with faculty and staff. Again, I know it can be intimidating, but being now on the other side as a staff member, as someone who teaches, so as an instructor / faculty kind of role-ish, I love when students can reach out to me. I love talking to students. And so get over that awkwardness and how faculty and staff do want to talk to you and connect. Don't stress, don't feed into that stress culture. Holy Cross pride itself, like, if you're not stressed and there's something wrong with you, don't believe in that hype. That's not okay. Don't feed into that stress culture. It's okay to not have, it's okay to have 8 hours of sleep. And don't pride yourself like having a bunch of all-nighters. That's not the right way to go about life, and that's not sustainable. And finally, I would say, make sure be open to meet people, regardless of their racial, ethnic, gender, background, even the weird kid, etc. Because you never know what kind of connections you will make with them, and you never know where they will be in life. Holy Cross produced amazing people, and even if they're not amazing personalities, they're doing amazing things in life. And you never know that person sitting next to you where you're like, ill, I don't like this person dressed weird or talk weird, where they will be in life, and having that connection may be useful in the future.
Wow, I am just amazed by the both of you today. So thank you both for joining us. Thank you to the folks who joined us for today's session. Again, it will be recorded and shared. To end today's session, I would say, just going off what you both wrapped up today's session with, were get involved, diversify your friend groups, connect with faculty and staff, be yourself, get your rest so you can be your best. Thank you for joining us today, everyone.